TAJ to eliminate check transactions. Tax Administration Jamaica has announced that it will stop accepting and issuing checks by March 2028 as the country's revenue authority moves towards fully electronic payments. The transition will begin on September 1st, 2026, when TAJ stop accepting checks from government entities as well as managers' checks valued at $1 million or more. The maximum amount accepted by check will then fall to $500,000 in March 2027 and $100,000 6 months later. From March 1st, 2028, checks will no longer be accepted for tax payments. TAJ will also discontinue refund checks, with refunds instead being transferred directly to customers' bank accounts or returned to their credit cards. Taxpayers are being encouraged to begin using the authority's digital channels before the first restrictions take effect. Ghana proposes right of return for African descendants. Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama has announced plans to establish clearer residence and citizenship pathways for people of African descent living outside the continent. Addressing a joint sitting of Jamaica's parliament during his state visit, President Mahama said Ghana is considering a Homeland Return Bill. The legislation would expand the country's existing right-of-abode framework and formally recognize the ability of qualified members of the African diaspora to settle in Ghana. President Mahama said he intends to encourage other African countries to introduce similar policies when he assumes the chairmanship of the African Union. He argued that repatriation should be treated as a right for descendants of people forcibly removed from Africa during the transatlantic slave trade, rather than simply an act of goodwill. The Ghanaian leader also used his address to call for a stronger political and economic alliance between Africa and the Caribbean. He said the two regions should coordinate their positions on climate change, trade, food security, public health, and reform of international financial institutions. Mahama argued that their combined influence could help secure fairer treatment for developing countries. Annual salary increases becoming less automatic. The Jamaica Employers Federation says some companies are moving away from automatic annual salary increases and placing greater emphasis on productivity and individual performance. JEF President Wayne Chen said the long-standing practice developed during periods of extremely high inflation when yearly adjustments were needed to protect workers' purchasing power. Employers are now increasingly considering the value created by workers, prevailing market conditions, and what individual companies can financially sustain. The Bustamante Industrial Trade Union has warned, however, that workers should not be forced to absorb business pressures through stagnant wages. The union says negotiations must still consider inflation, wages paid by competing employers, and the financial position of each company, particularly as families prepare for back-to-school expenses. Keyhole surgeries return to Annotto Bay Hospital. Patients in St. Mary and neighboring parishes can once again receive laparoscopic surgery at Annotto Bay Hospital following a multi-year suspension of the service. The minimally invasive procedures resumed in June and can be used for gallbladder, appendix, and hernia operations. The technique generally involves smaller incisions, reduced pain, shorter hospital stays, and faster recovery when compared with conventional open surgery. The program had been disrupted by damaged equipment, staffing shortages, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Refurbishment assistance was provided by the Jamaica Awareness Association of California. The hospital currently aims to perform one planned procedure and one emergency laparoscopic operation each week. In sports, under-20 boys face decisive Canada qualifier. Jamaica's under-20 men's football team will face Canada today with a place in the CONCACAF Championship semifinals and qualification for the FIFA Under-20 World Cup at stake. Both countries emerged from Group C with 5 points. Canada took the first place on goal difference, while Jamaica finished second after completing an unbeaten group stage campaign for the first time since 2018. The teams drew 2-2 during the group stage after Sean Layton converted a penalty in the 100th minute. Jamaican forward Jamari Nolan enters the quarterfinal with 3 goals and is among the tournament's leading scorers. Kickoff is scheduled for 5:30 p.m. Jamaica time, with the winner advancing to the Final Four. Share your views in the comments. Subscribe to Jamaica News Now and turn on notifications for continuing updates. I'm your host. Thank you for watching and have a safe evening. Subscribe today, turn on notifications, and never miss the stories that matter most. Jamaica News Now, your Highlands, your news, right now.